today, this super squeaky scuba tip, this squeaky scuba tip, quick squeaky scuba tip, squeakins.
Squeakity squeak, squeaking.
How's it going, dive buddies? It is Kyle here with another quick scuba tip, and today's super quick scuba tip is on how to change the O-rings on your tank valve. O-rings over time wear out, they dry up, they fray. Standard things with O-rings, it's just something that happens. So in this tip, we're gonna show you the one simple way that you can do it. There are a couple different ways, but I recommend doing it one particular way that just extends the life of the valve in the tank. Now, some people might ask, well, why don't we just take a dental pick or a little brass pick or something like that and pluck out the O-ring and then reinstall a new one? Now, you could totally do that, and I'll admit I've done that before in the dive shop. Sometimes we are very careful and can remove that. But the problem and the risk that you run when you do that is you have the opportunity, or you're presenting yourself with the opportunity to accidentally scratch and gouge into the face of the valve here, thus preventing a proper seal to happen. So it can be done carefully, but there is a way that is much easier than using a pick and reduces the amount of risk to zero. And this is how you do it. And before I show you the tip on how to remove the O-ring from the valve, let's jump into very quickly on what to look for signs of knowing that you need to change your O-ring. Now, the first sign that you need to change the O-ring on your tank is you're gonna hear or see it. Now, when you hook up your regulator and you fire up the air, there's a chance that you could hear a small amount or a large amount of air hissing out from around the connection of the regulator and the tank. That means you need to change your O-ring. Now, there is also a chance that when you are actually diving, if you've made it past the point of hooking up your equipment, maybe you didn't hear anything, or maybe it was just really quiet and you didn't hear it, you jump into the water, there is a chance that a buddy of yours or another diver in your group may see a small little trickle of bubbles trickling up to the surface. Sometimes you see this in a lot of tanks when you go and rent tanks down south or wherever you're diving, and that just is also a sign that the O-ring is going to need to be changed soon. Not necessarily immediately, but soon. In my opinion, it's an O-ring, it's worth nothing. Put a new one in there if you've got one, if you had a chance. The third way that you can tell that your O-ring needs to be changed on your tank is just by simply inspecting it. When you rent a tank or you have your own tanks and you're about to hook them up and you inspect the face of the valve, I like to view this as a little face, as if it was like a little man or something, a little person, and you inspect the O-ring around the valve, you're gonna see what they refer to as like feathering. This doesn't mean that it's grown feathers or something like that, but it simply means that the little flakes of the rubber have started to peel off or dry up, and what that is doing is that is now creating a scenario where we won't maybe have a proper seal when we hook up our regulator. Okay, so enough of that. Let's jump right into the tip. What we're gonna need for this is you're gonna need your regulator, and you're gonna need a spare O-ring. That is it. Of course, obviously you're gonna need your tank as well. The whole point of this is to change an O-ring. So you need your tank. And what we're gonna do is we're going to, first we've obviously noticed that our tank needs a new O-ring. This one is feathered. Its time has come. Step one, throw your regulator on your tank. You've done this 1,000 times. You know how this works. Step two, fire up some reg. Now, I don't know if you can hear this from over there, but we've got a hiss. Obviously, it's time to change our O-ring. So that's easy enough. Now we've turned on our air, we're gonna shut off our air. Don't worry, keep following me. Turn the air on, turn the air off. Now we need to remove the O-ring. Now, you were taught in your class, when you turn your air on, and then you turn your air off, and you wanna disassemble your equipment, you need to purge the air out of the regulator to be able to disassemble the equipment and take your regulator off, or else you'd have a big pop or a big bang or some big noise, or it would be next to impossible to take it off because of all the pressure built up and stored in the regulator. And your instructors were 100% correct. But for this purpose, we need to use that little bit of air that's trapped in the regulator to our advantage. So I'm gonna fire this back up again. I've got a hiss, nasty hiss. It's time for a new O-ring. I'm gonna shut the tank off. And you can do this one of two ways. I like to do it the not so in your face way, but let's do the in your face way. What we need to do now is force the air out of the tank valve, like that. Now, what I'm gonna show you up here in a second real close is as I disassemble your O-ring, it's gonna fly out, pop out, drop off, fly out to the other corner of the room or something like that, and you gotta track it down so that a fish or a bird doesn't eat it or something, or a toddler or a dog. And that's how you get it off. You use the air pressure, you force the knob off, nice and slowly, but just be prepared for that bang of air coming out of there. And there you go. And that's simple as that. There's nothing crazy there. Now, to put the O-ring back on, what we do is we grab our new O-ring, right? We're going to, I like to start it with my fingers, kind of tuck it in there, up into one of the ledges, get it in as much as I can. And it's not perfectly flush in there. So what I do then is I take my regulator again, right? Our handy dandy tool that we've been using, and snug it up, tight. Now I take it off. I like to inspect again and just make sure that I haven't pinched or doubled up anything, or it's not, or cut it or anything like that. And then you can keep the rag on. Now, the not so in your face method that I was talking about earlier is exactly the same thing, but when you turn your air on and you turn your air off, instead of going at it and disconnecting the yoke knob here on your regulator, you let a little bit of air out of the regulator, not all of it, but a little bit, and then you do the same thing. Now the problem with that, or the one downside with that, is that in this particular case, I didn't leave enough air in the regulator to do that. So it's kind of a dance of making sure you leave just enough air in the regulator to get that O-ring out. And then obviously, once you put anything new in there or done any adjustments or anything like that, we need to check before we go diving, of course. So we're gonna fire it up, we're gonna listen, we're gonna test it, do your standard piece of dirt in there, and you're gonna inspect it, make sure you're all good to go, and you're set. And that was easy as that. So there you have it, guys. Super quick, easy tip on how to change the O-ring in the face of your valve. If you've got any questions, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. Thanks for watching and checking out the Dive Wagon, guys. Make sure you subscribe and like this video for more awesome quick scuba tips. See you next time, and happy diving. Why you gotta do this to me? Why you gotta do this to me? Come on, do it for the camera. Do it for the camera. There you're coming. Oh my goodness.